Yep.
So, something else, since we're kind of getting to the end here, you talked about you started making these videos because at the time four strokes were somewhat confusing to people. So we kind of went from two strokes ruling to four strokes to somewhat of a resurgence in two strokes, at least in like the hair scramble and enduro side of things. And now kind of shifting, or people claim that we're going to be shifting again to electric bikes. Where do you stand on kind of the future of where things are going?
So, you know, everybody knows me as the electric proponent on TikTok, and I am. I've sung the electric praises for years now. And I just got to be clear, I have 28, 29 bikes, and not one of them is electric. Um, no, none of my motorcycles are electric. I have some bicycles, but I love two strokes and I love four strokes. And the older I get, the older cool bikes look for me. However, for motocross, and specifically motocross, um, motocross needs electric bikes. I don't know if it will survive without it because of the noise
Yep.
issues. I think that electric could help grow motocross. I dream of a sport where like a single mom can plug in her kid's bike and take it to the track, and as long as there's air in the tires, he's good to go.
It
You
is
know,
that is a really good point, because a huge barrier to entry is, like, if you're going to go and buy KTM or something like that, is you have to have a base level knowledge and understanding of maintenance, and not just simple maintenance for most people either. Like for your average Joe, even a valve check is bordering rocket science. Um, that is one thing that's really attractive to me for electric bikes, is there are no valve checks. You're not changing engine oil every 10 hours. You still have, suspension maintenance, chain maintenance, wheel bearings, etc. But it really seems to simplify things. Fewer moving parts. Your maintenance intervals aren't measured in, you know, tens of hours anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
if you
if
don't
you don't
have if a kid doesn't have a super involved dad or grandfather or someone, or a mom that's just so loaded that things don't matter and she can drop it off at the dealership every Monday, you just can't do it. You can't do it. And so many people, everything's getting smaller. I have a motocross track here at my place, and my motocross track was here first, right? And then they built a subdivision over here, and
Yep.
then a highway here, and now they're building another subdivision over here, and everything's just getting smaller. And the last thing I need is for my 106 decibel bike that my neighbor can hear literally like 3/4 of a mile down the road. My neighbor tells me he can hear me. That's not helping us. That's only hurting us.
Yep.
Uh, Kids with these, E2s and E3s and E5s, they can start, in a yard and neighborhood, and
Yep.
as long as the dust's down, nobody cares. I mean, we've joked that we could have a small supercross race at Laidley Field or Appalachian Power Park with electric, and if we could just, as long as the dust is kept down, nobody's going to care. Nobody would
Yeah.
even
Yep.
care.
That's
And
a really good
Laidley Field wants to have a motocross race. They have contacted promoters about doing an arena cross. You could have a huge arena cross race there. Um, the problem with Laidley is that you'd have to put down plywood over the entire field because they
Yep.
have a very fragile, some kind of layer with the turf or whatever is very fragile. So you have to cover it with plywood, and it's not cost effective. But we could figure out the noise issue and run electric. We could grow the sport and have way more places to ride,
Yep.
and be better for everybody. I don't think, there will be electric dual sports and there will be electric trail bikes. I demoed the Stark for 6 months. I rode it on the trails. It was great. But, when you're dual sporting, you're
Yeah.
traveling. The
So
noise
you're
environment.
covering ground. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I've
even
heard
even
several
when you're
times.
racing a GNCC, like they're at a GNCC location once a year, But
Yeah.
these motocross tracks are getting hammered every weekend with noise, and they're just shutting down, man. They're just all shutting
Yep.
down.
Yeah, I've said several times if they would come out with a dual sport machine, electric dual sport machine that had, lightweight, 40 horsepower, 300-mile range, I'd probably buy it because it's a real rarity that I spend close to 300 miles in the saddle in a given day. Um, but then, like knowing the electrical engineering side of things, the charging is still, um,
The bottleneck.
yeah, to an extent, unless you can only push 110-volt circuit so far. I mean, it's just as simple as that. There's only so much power that you can sap from a standard wall socket, and but for like a 20-minute moto or something like that, I could see
Yeah,
an
it's good for
electric
that.
bike being a good solution for the reasons that you described. Noise, um, people have a negative connotation of dirt bikes largely due to the noise.
Yes.
Yeah, people tend to, from what I've seen, at least on YouTube, people really tend to look the other way when it's like a Stark Varg um, pulling a wheelie down the street or something like that, because there's really no noise associated with it. It's not disruptive
Yes.
in the way that a 450 or something would be.
Yeah.
I kind of
That's something that you brought up that I really never thought of. For like you were saying, that at a motocross track or a supercross track of that sort, it's where it is. So there's no, if people are going to be there a lot, you're going to get that noise effect every time at that location. It's not like a air scramble or a GNCC where it's moving constantly. I think that's a really
It's
good point.
it's adapt or die.
Yeah.
All these racetracks all across the country are being closed on.
Yeah.
Dirt tracks, circle tracks for cars, etc.
Yeah.
Drag strips because
Yeah. Because of noise.
these housing developers will not stop. They will build $400,000 townhouses 100 feet from the start line of your drag strip,
Yeah.
and that
Yep.
HOA will